again, we are here for the second round table, whose name is Sharing the Blue Gene. And let me introduce you our host, René Umberto, the CEO of IFA Europe, and Eric Ezechieli, who is an international expert in sustainability. Well, this second roundtable is very close to the first one that we had a few minutes ago. Again, we talk about the blue generation, but now the emphasis is not as much on product design, it is on product sustainability, actually on technology sustainability, I would say. So again, the perception is that consumers are more demanding, not only in terms of attractive products, but also in terms of cleaner products. So we as consumers push companies to produce with the cleaner technologies, and again, the companies that are able to grasp this trend before the others are the companies that would be more successful in the future. So, Eric, I would start first of all asking you, what is this difference between green and blue? Okay, we talk about blue as green 2.0. What does it mean?
Yes, let's say that we have gone through an evolution in the last few decades. In the past, a product should be available, and then it needed to be safe, and then it needed to be beautiful. And now people just take for granted that the product should be both ethical and affordable. So what used to be an option or something considered kind of a side characteristic of the product now must absolutely be embedded in the product, and people are more informed. They can go back and track the story of a product. How is it made? What kind of side effects? Is this a good company or a bad company? The level of transparency has been growing exponentially. And so we faced a new trend, a new driver in the market, so that people are looking after these blue values, meaning that they are very deeply embedded in the product and not something that it can be present only occasionally. So it's very, very big transformation that puts a lot of pressures and a lot of opportunities on the companies as well in order to provide these kind of answers.
Okay, Mr. Umberto, what is sustainability for hire?
For us, sustainability first begin, of course, we try to do energy saving product, but you have already said that but it's more and more important. First of all, second, we need to organize the product, and for us, what is very important, as you know, our product is a big product, and recycling is very important. So we need to be involved in the recycling process. We need to be involved in all the recycling process. We need to work with the retailers who are involved in the recycling process. For instance, some retailers, they are not involved in the recycling. This retailer, we don't want to work with because we consider that they don't do the job and we don't do our job from industry to retail to customer. So this is for us very important to be as well involved in all the recycling process for the product. Of course, we need to make a clean product, sustainable product, safe product. But more and more, the product is like this. What we need to do is to develop the product in order not only to have safety, but to give to the customer something very strong. For instance, antibacterial system is very strong because the product will be more sustainable with antibacterial system because the washing machine will continue. It's same for a fridge. So that's why we need to have product who have longer lifestyle than they have before.
I think this is a very good point because consumers not always think about recycling the products. I mean, they think about the features of the product, but they don't think about what happens to the products when the products is actually discarded. They don't use it anymore. So, Eric, coming back to you, how can we have talked about this generation of consumers that are living a more sustainable life? They wishes to live a more sustainable life. Is it correct to say that in this fashion, choosing a product is a kind of ethic choice?
Well, there's been a very dramatic shift in the awareness of how people can influence the behavior of companies. There are really market research that show this growing trend, and people realize that they are really voting with their money. And well, this is a kind of old concept, but now the awareness is growing so strongly that people say, okay, I'm going to get information about this company, understand if this product is creating some bad effects, because I realize that the bad effects are not somewhere else, they are affecting me in the first place. So it's changing also the concept of boundaries. People in the past used to think more locally, so they looked at what happened in their home or their village, and now they look at what's happening globally. And so the power to choose and the choice is easier than ever, because you can go on internet, you can compare 20 different products just in a half hour. If you had to do this 10 years ago, it would have taken you 10 weeks and you couldn't find an answer. And now just in a few minutes, you can compare and choose and order directly from your computer. So in order also to fidelize the clients, you need to be really, really cutting edge and to really also disclose what's going on behind the windows, what's going on what's the backstory of the product, and make sure that people are not taking the burden, for example, to differentiate or recycle. They, as we were saying, we take for granted that the company is going to take care of this. And so it's very interesting to listen that Hire is going exactly in this direction and being a catalyst for a virtuous system.
Mr. Robertin, let me ask you a brutal question. How much money is Hire putting into this?
On the Hire investing a lot of money on all research and development. So today the company invests 4% of the total turnover, which is a lot. You can compare in the R&D. Of course, R&D is dedicated to product, but a big part of this R&D is done to organize reliable sustainability, and that, like you say, to give the best product for the customer, because the customer deserve to have a product like this. And like you say, the people now, they vote with their money. Why? Because everybody now has understood that they need to do something. They need to do something for them, like you say, for the village, but they need to do something for the planet. And even if you don't want, even if the customer does not want, you have the young people, the young generation, who is always, every day, ask him, what do you do for sustainability? My daughter, sometimes she says, Dad, what do you do for sustainability? I say, today nothing, but... So we have the kids who have a lot of... now is very sensitive about this. So that's why we need to wash, and we invest a lot for this.
Eric, if you would suggest something to a company like Hire to become more sustainable, what would you suggest? Maybe that's a very complex question, but try to give us some hints.
Let's say it's interesting learning that you're investing so much in innovation, research and development, because generally when a company is the leader, is the largest in the world, they just tend to do the minimum which is sufficient to keep the position. I think this is a kind of old style thinking, because radical innovation has always come from outsiders, never from the leaders. And if the leaders want to remain leaders, they really have to start thinking as outsiders and look at their model from the outside, maybe also involving outsiders and say, how would you do this if you could redesign the business entirely and start experimenting in those directions? And this is very, very challenging, but I think nowadays is an approach which is becoming almost indispensable because of what I said, because the speed at which others can pop out of nothing and take away market shares from you is unprecedented. So my advice would be really to explore what does full sustainability really means. What is a vision when long-term shot, maybe several years or even decades, when a company like Hire becomes a regenerative company. So not just minimizing the damage, but saying what I'm doing is actually leaving a better planet. So not only zeroing the negative impacts, but systematically generating positive impacts. And this can be done with the best of ingenuity and creativity and innovation, and technology is really heading in this direction. So this is what I really hope to see in the future.
That's quite a strong suggestion.
Yeah,
what do you think about it?
You have to be bold, even bolder.
I fully agree. That's why we invest. You know, so I take an example. For instance, today for a washing machine, today you have a drum. So for the drum, you need water and you need a lot of energy. One day, imagine it's existing. Imagine it's existing. One day, we'll have a way to wash which could be different. So I know, I cannot disclose unfortunately, but I know that something can be different in the way to wash. And one day, it will be totally different, that there will be probably no water and very few energy. So this is something we need. That's why we invest. That's why we are very, very active. That's why we want to develop something. Some years ago, we have developed a washing machine with no detergent by electrolyze. Unfortunately, the customer didn't want it. So we are obliged to stop. But one day, we'll come back with a system to wash with no detergent.
And also, I think it's interesting to look into different fields. For example, looking into the fabrics industry. And now, for example, with nanotechnology, they can develop fabrics that retain no dirt at all. What does it mean if you make washing machines? In the future, you may have fabrics that require no washing or almost no washing, or radically different technology for washing. So looking into other fields which are not the normal business could really provide insights for the future generation of home appliances.
It's not only a matter about planet environment. It's just always a matter for the customer to save time. For instance, if you have a dishwasher, you save your time because you don't wash your plates like did my mother 10 years ago. One day, probably, we will stop to iron. Iron is a nightmare at home for everybody. So probably one day, due to the technology, like you say, for the garments, but with technology that we want to develop, investing a lot, probably one day there will be no more iron. So it means that the customer will save time, and time is very important as well.
And energy too.
Of course, but for time, if you ask to the people how long do you spend time to iron, and it's a nightmare, and you lose time. So it's better to have time to do something else.